First look, and Mona is magnificent. When it comes to overall design, I think Mona is among Genshin's most popular, especially among fan artists, and it's easy to see why. The part witch, part astrologist motif is a unique and somewhat contrasting combination. Proportion and likeness wise, I think this figure is right on the money. The Figma team leans closer to Mona's official art instead of her in-game model, and I think that's the right choice. Mona follows the elemental color coding of hydro equals a lot of blue, and there's a lot of blue. To be fair, there's also a good amount of purple, and even a splattering of gold. Mona's witch's hat definitely stands out, and at first I thought this gap was a compromise. But, to my shock, Mona in-game actually has a gap there. It isn't as big, but I think it's fine. Mona even looks good without the hat. You know, just don't look at her from the top. Mona's cloak can also be taken off, and now she's in her light mode, summer mode. Honestly, I can't remember if Mona ever looks this way in-game. The operative word being in-game. But hey, I appreciate the option. No matter how much I gush in this opening segment and sing Mona's praises, I do have a bit of an issue with how Mona's chest is cut. But in some angles, it looks unnatural. It seems like it's just floating there and not really connected to anything. And it's equally as distracting from the back. Fortunately, when Mona is wearing her cloak, it hides the back issue and admittedly most of the chest issue. Just be mindful of it. On the visual front alone, Mona's highs are high and her lows, well, they exist. Articulation starts and Mona can look up and down quite impressively. She can also look side to side, no problem. Her twin tails are on a hinge and a swivel. There's a chest swivel, her arms can go sideways very easily. There's a shoulder rotation, a bicep swivel, a deep elbow bend, and the wrists are on a swivel hinge. The legs are on a ball socket, a deep knee bend, and the ankles are on a swivel and a hinge. The cloak's flowing parts are on a swivel hinge, and while she's wearing it, the shoulder pads can be moved aside to free up Mona's arms. On to accessories, and let's start with Mona's alternate faces. Her default face is fairly neutral, which we can swap for this look of anguish, that's how GSC described it, and a look of surprise. Again, their words, not mine. The Figma basics are to be expected: a Figma bag, a spare Figma joint, and a Figma hand rack. The rack hands include a pair of fists, a pair of splayed hands, a pair of gripping hands, and a left cupping hand that's missing its pair. That's because the right cupping hand is permanently affixed to Mona's wallet. Her wallet is best remembered from one of her in-game idle animations. Another Figma staple is the Figma stand, this time with a hexagon for a base. It's pretty neat. We can attach Mona herself as well as some other accessories like this astrology circle that appears during another one of Mona's idle animations. It has clean printing, and that looks like Amber's constellation. A possible teaser maybe? But actually in-game, Mona randomly brings up people's cons. Sometimes it's Jean's, sometimes it's Lisa's, and you guessed it, sometimes it's Amber's. That's probably what she's doing right now. Press E to cast the skill, and doing so, Mona conjures a watery apparition, a chibified mini Mona that taunts foes and makes them wet. Wait, I do appreciate this inclusion. I just wish they went with a clear or translucent background instead of solid. It would have made it look less cheap. Also, at a quick glance, it kinda looks like Mini Mona is flipping you off. And at last, we have Skyward Atlas. Externally, the details are precise, the coloring is correct, and internally, there's some actual writing and pictures, a level of detail that I appreciate. The catalyst can fly around with the assistance of a clear stem that connects to Mona's base. A quick size comparison, here's Figma Mona next to Figma Saber 2.0. SHF Android 21 lab coat, SHF Kamen Rider Jean, and next to my last Figma review, Rider 2.0. Mona was the Figma I anticipated the most for 2022, and simply put, my excitement is validated. First, I always have to emphasize, Mona is not perfect, nothing ever is, but in spite of the flaws I've outlined throughout the video, Mona is a strong first outing for Genshin Impact in the action figure market. This is Max Factory with their best foot forward, and I sincerely hope that when it comes to Genshin, Mona is just the beginning.